Hello and welcome to the mind map about protist disease. Protists are eukaryotic organisms. They have a true nucleus with membrane-bound organelles. They are very diverse, quite often called the junk drawer of classification, because anything that doesn't fit into another classification group is put into protists as long as they're single cellular. They're all aquatic, and the ones that live on land prefer to live in moist environments. They can be unicellular or multicellular, but either way they don't form tissues. There are three general types. There are animal-like, which are heterotrophic and mobile, such as malaria. There are plant-like, which are autotrophic and motile, like algae. And there are fungus-like that are saprophytic and mobile, like Phytophthora. Some reproduce asexually through budding or binary fission. Some reproduce sexually through gamete union, which is called syngamy. The two diseases you need to know for WA are malaria and Jarrah dieback. Malaria is caused by a group of 4 organisms that are all Plasmodium. We've got Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, and Plasmodium malariae. The most common forms are falciparum and vivax. The malaria parasite is eukaryotic, unicellular, which means one cell, with a flagellum. There are 2 main hosts for malaria, being both the mosquito and the human. And the life cycle consists of sporozoites being injected into the human bloodstream by the mosquito Anopheles. These sporozoites travel through the bloodstream to the liver cells, which are called hepatocytes, where they mature into schizonts to get ready for asexual reproduction. The schizont ruptures to release lots of merozoites. The merozoites invade the red blood cells called erythrocytes, and then the merozoites mature into trophozoites in something called the ring stage. From here, there are 2 pathways. The first one, called the erythrocytic cycle, is when the trophozoites mature to form schizonts. The schizont then ruptures to release more merozoites, which infect more erythrocytes, and it keeps going around in a cycle. However, some mature into gametocytes, which is the male and female gamete. The gametes are taken up by the female Anopheles mosquito during a blood meal, and this is when sexual reproduction begins. The gametes fuse in the gut of the mosquito and form a zygote. The zygote develops into an ookinet. The ookinets burrow into the gut wall and form oocysts. The oocysts produce sporozoites which burst out and travel to the salivary glands, and the cycle starts all over again. The incubation period for malaria is between 10 to 15 days from exposure. With the symptoms, I've divided them into 3 classes. Number 1 is flu-like symptoms. Number 2 is about the damage being caused by the pathogen. And number 3 is the severe symptoms that can lead to death. So the flu-like symptoms, there's fever, sweats, chills, fatigue, headache, and muscle aches. The symptoms caused by tissue death are vomiting and nausea, abdomen pain, anemia caused by red blood cell death, and jaundice caused by liver cell death. The severe symptoms include confusion and seizures due to penetration into the central nervous system, kidney failure, respiratory distress, and death. The treatment for malaria is anti-malarial drugs. And then once again, I've divided up the control into 3 divisions. There's personal, which includes bed nets, loose clothing, using repellents, and avoiding dusk, which is when mosquitoes are active. Then I've got environmental, which is to stop stagnant water buildup, chlorinate your pools, and release sterile mosquitoes. And then the last division I've got is with vaccination, which when activated create antibodies. Down here I've got a picture of the life cycle, which is quite complex. Next we're going to look at Jarrah dieback, and the pathogen is called Phytophthora cinnamomi. It's eukaryotic, unicellular, and diploid. It's classified as an marmoset, which is a water mold. It used to be classified as a fungus because it has many fungal characteristics. It possesses a flagellum for motility. Its reservoir is in the soil and diseased plants, and the life cycle includes both sexual and asexual reproduction. Hyphae can create both sexual and asexual sporangium. In the sexual cycle, a male gamete called the antheridium is created, and a female gamete called the oogonium is created. Syngamy occurs to form a sporangium. Syngamy just means the union of 2 gametes. But because it's sexual, there's lots of variation in these zoospores. In the asexual cycle, which happens during harsh conditions, resistant chlamydospores form, and there's no variation in the zoospores because it's asexual. Anyway, both create sporangium, which cleave to release zoospores. The zoospores swim towards the roots due to chemotaxis. Upon contact with the root cells, the zoospores encysst, which means to create a cyst, which is a body with thickened walls. The zoospores germinate to produce germ tubes, which then penetrate the root and initiate infection. The pathogen resides in the plant and destroys vascular tissue, in particular the xylem. Once inside, it forms more sporangia, which is the plural of sporangium. Symptoms include leaf curl, yellow leaves, root rot, and then death. There's not really much of an incubation period because death rapidly occurs after infection. There are 3 types of dispersion: water, soil, and humans. In water, the pathogen uses its flagella to swim. It travels best after rain or after heavy watering. Spores reside in the soil and will travel with the roots of soil when moved. Humans like to go bushwalking, and when they do, they can pick up the spores from the soil and transport them. And then there are 3 treatments. There's biological, chemical, and physical. Biological is the use of mutualistic fungi that outcompete the Phytophthora. Chemical is the use of fungicides and phosphates that kill the Phytophthora. And physical is the removal of trees and soil that are infected, and this prevents future exposure. Prevention occurs by not overwatering plants and not transplanting diseased trees or soil. We can fumigate the soil and decontaminate shoes with ethanol. Here is the life cycle of Phytophthora cinnamomi. It starts with hyphae and, depending upon the conditions, decides upon whether it's sexual or asexual. Under favourable conditions, it will go through sexual reproduction, and in harsh times, it will undergo asexual reproduction. During the asexual reproduction, it forms a chlamydospore. Either way, they both form sporangium. The sporangium then cleaves to release motile zoospores that then encysst and then germinate, forming the germ tube. Thank you for listening. I hope this was a help to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.